you very much. All right, we have a very friendly crowd here tonight. Thank you. John, welcome home.
Thank you. This isn't home.
It is home, right? Unlike many of your trips home to Maine, this is actually a working trip for you. You have a lot going on.
Yep.
You open tomorrow night in Portland and in a couple of weeks in New York.
Yep.
I want to start our conversation tonight just by asking about your life lately and what it's like balancing these two competing things.
Well, it's feast or famine, what I do. And this is a feast. It has been a famine. I spent... do you want to know what I've been doing?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I finished a show called The Band's Visit in October. Yep. October 7th. I didn't know you were going to be here. October 7th, 2009. No, this isn't 20, right?
It is 20.
18. 2018. I had to leave because I had to finish, I had a book due. Almost Maine is becoming a novel. And, yep. And I've been working on it for about 5 years, and I've missed about every deadline. But I had to finish The Band's Visit so I could spend the next year really focusing on finishing the book because the publisher was not thrilled with me, and they wanted me to really settle down and focus and finish. And so that was October through the summer, and then I started to turn in my book over the summer, and that's my life the past year. I've been by myself a lot, which is not my jam. And I'm very happy to be with people now. But I finished, I worked on the book, and then right when I finished, I got married, which is very exciting. and after that, I continued to work on the book, and then I got cast in Carolina Change.
Yes.
I couldn't go to the initial audition because I was working on the book, and I was not allowed to go to the audition. But fortunately, they couldn't find anybody for the part, and they asked me to come in later. So that's how that happened. And then we got ready for Almost Maine at Portland Stage Company, and we had a bit of a minor crisis when I got cast in Carolina Change because it was going to conflict directly with Almost Maine, and so I had to make a terrible phone call to Anita Stewart, the artistic director of Portland Stage Company, and explain to her the situation. And Anita is the most resourceful person you've ever met, and she was a little stunned at first and said, let's think about this. And she thought and said, why don't we change the dates? And I was like, why didn't I think of that? Let's change the dates. So that's what we did. We changed the dates. We've had a very truncated rehearsal process, which has made me a little nervous, but I'm really thrilled because the other actors are incredible. And what we've managed to do in nine rehearsal days is truly remarkable. I think you're going to be blown away by them.
Yeah. And
I still don't know my lines. I had to call line in the dress rehearsal last night, so that was exciting.
So you've acted in this play a few times.
This is my third time, yep.
But you've never acted at Portland Stage, correct?
No, and I've auditioned for Portland Stage many times in my young career. I never got a part. But it's not your fault. No, I always wanted to, and we've been talking about it. We've been trying to figure out, I'd love to come up, but what would be the right part? And when she mentioned this, I just thought, I think I would like to do that. And what I like about doing it this time is that this is the oldest cast that's ever done the play, and there's something really sad about the play when you're middle-aged. Do you know what I mean? So it'll be interesting to see what people think.
Yeah.
The actors have found a level of desperation and sadness that I kind of always thought was there, but in a good way.
That's the human emotion, right?
Yeah,
It's the whole scope of life. You wrote the play, or opened in 2004. You probably wrote it for a while before that. It's evolved a little bit since it opened here, but not too much. Can for people who saw it in 2004 and are going to go back this week or next week, what is different?
Well, there's a scene that was cut from the 2004 production and replaced by another scene that was done in New York and has been done since. So people will see that scene for the first time on stage at Portland Stage Company. And we've continued. I have a really great Dramatist Play Service is the publisher of the play. And every time your play sells out of it, like is about to sell out of its copies, you're given an opportunity to spruce it up or update it a little bit. And my editor, her name is Haley Stillwell, very smart woman. She suggested that I take a look at some of the content of the play because it does have a lot of kissing that comes out of nowhere. And in today's environment, it is a little tricky when people kiss each other out of nowhere, especially when men kiss women out of nowhere.
Yes.
And I learned a lot about, I think when you don't understand something emotionally, you can understand it intellectually. That doesn't mean that you fully understand it. And as a man, I think I understood the Me Too movement from an intellectual perspective. I don't think I understood it emotionally because I am not a woman. And she said to me that some of those scenes might be misconstrued. And I said, but Halle, that wasn't my intention. She said, it doesn't matter what your intention is. What is in the text is that this woman gets kissed by this man. And some people might find that off-putting. And I don't think you want to sacrifice the sweetness and the beauty of your play for a lack of clarity in your script. And I was like, now I understand. What I intended doesn't matter. What is in the script is this guy kisses this girl. So we just made some subtle adjustments. They're very small, but they're great adjustments. And with the help of people like Sally Wood, my director, Halle, the editor, they just helped me, guided me, because I didn't know that was there. And so that was neat to kind of learn. That's how I kind of understood that a little. I hate to call it the Me Too movement, but that's the best way to say it. So that's been fun, is to really just make sure that it's never predatory, whatever's happening to any of these people. Because that, again, not my intention, but if it's in the script, it could be perceived as such. And we've had some complaints, like people have gotten on social media, have screamed about the play that it's way behind the times, and now people are like, no, there's a new version, so relax, you know what I mean? And the cool thing was I was just ahead of it, because the third revised, it's Almost Maine is the original, and then there's Almost Maine revised edition, then it's Almost Maine second revised edition, we're in Almost Maine third revised edition. And so that came out in, I think, 16, and so we were ahead of it, which was great. So it's kind of great to say we were thinking about it, and it's not me who was thinking about it, it's someone else who was thinking about it.
Very interesting that in a relatively short amount of time that you have been able to, and felt the need to update that play.
Yeah, I want it to live in a timeless place. I want it to not be bound by time. I just said that, but
So you were 35 or so when this came out, and you're 50 now. How is it different acting in this play as a 50-year-old?
I find that being at this age, you realize that life is a little shorter than you think it's going to be. I have a really good friend who's got cancer, and we just found out that it's much worse than we thought. I found out this afternoon. Sorry. Yeah, it's really hard because, I'm at that age where I'm aware that it's ending. Do you know what I mean? Not that it's ending, but that I have things I want to do, and if I'm going to do them, it's now or never. That's what's neat about doing Almost Maine. It's now or never.
Yes.
And I really understand that. I did not understand that even 5 years ago, And I don't feel old or anything. I just think there's an awareness of I'm seeing, there has been a lot of cancer in my life among my friends. And my mom said the best thing to me. She said, and I got really upset about it every time. And my mom was like, okay, you can get upset about this every time, but you have to realize that this is a part of living. This is going to continue to happen. And if you get upset about it every time, you're going to not be a well person. So why don't you just start to think about it in terms of, here we go, this is what, get used to it. She didn't say get used to it, but that's basically what she said. And just,
Sure. Yeah. I think people are, I'm 57.
Yeah.
I know many people in the last few years who've died of various things or are ill.
No one prepares you for it. All of a sudden, you're like, wait, am I there? I guess I'm there. There's no, it's weird.
But it does give you a sense of appreciation, not just to live every day, which is a cliche and it's true, but to appreciate the things that happen every day and to understand that what you're doing and enjoying today may not be the case going forward.
Yeah, and while you have all of your capabilities, use them,
So how does that inform the work you're doing now? Do you feel a sense of urgency? Are you...
I feel like, I'm not saying this because she's here, but I learned from Anita in 2004, Anita Stewart, the artistic director, what hard work is. I thought I worked really hard all the time, and she's so awesome. It just means a lot that the play was done. And I didn't know that I cared so much about it. And I'm not sad. I saw how she worked at the theater. She would go to a meeting in her nice clothes. She would change her clothes and go paint the set. And I was like, wow. And she would work all day. And I was just kind of like, oh, that's what hard work is. And I kind of learned from that what it is to show up every day and work hard.
Yeah.
And I'm not sad, I swear. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why that does happen, but I think it's... And just also, she took a chance on Maine writers before other theaters in the country, there's this idea right now that homegrown art can be just as good as supporting a local business or supporting local food. You can art local. And she was doing it before it was cool. And now theaters all over the country, they have writers who, like if you're Indiana rep, there's a writer who's from Indiana who writes plays for, not just exclusively him, but they're supporting so that people from the place where the plays are being presented are seeing themselves on stage. And, oh my gosh, I don't know what the question was.
Well,
where were we?
it was
But I think it's just, I've learned to, I wasted a lot of time when I was younger. And I think it's good to waste time. You have to daydream and all that stuff. But I have learned how to work. Partly because of Portland Stage in 2004. I've learned to just show up every morning.
Yep.
Whether I have a job or not, like show up, get to work. You know, and sometimes I would wait for the work. I guess that's, yeah.
So much of your writing is about everyday people, common people. A lot of your plays, it's a theme that comes through in a lot of your scripts, and that is somewhat similar to what you're talking about now, the value of hard work and the commitment to doing something and doing it well. I'd like you to speak about, why you wrote about Almost Maine and what you're trying to capture with these people and how that theme has continued throughout other things you've written, including the novel.
Okay, so guide me as we start, because that's a lot of questions.
Yes, all about the common man and why that's important, especially in art.
Well, that's a hard question. I wrote the play because I love where I grew up, and I did when I was growing up because I had such great friends, and I'm still close to so many of my friends from high school, which is I'm learning in New York is not common. Mm-hmm. I was taught to leave. I was taught to go find better, and I never found better. I found different, just not better. Some of the people I made music with in high school are the best people I've ever made music with. So Almost Maine I wanted to get out because I was taught to get out. Because that's what we were taught then. I don't think that's as much the case anymore, but we were taught to if you had any aspirations or if you had ability, obvious ability, like if people could see, how some kids have obvious ability, it's hidden in a lot of kids. Mine was obvious, and they were like, you need to go. And so I went away to college. My mother was not thrilled that I did not go. I don't think she'd be mad if I said this, but I remember getting a scholarship to go to the University of Maine, and my mother was upset that I didn't take it. And I went to another college, and my dad thought it was important that I go to another college. I think I would have been fine either place. Mm-hmm. I just got to go to a school where the classes were tiny, and that was a blessing, and it was good for me, When I was at college, I started to miss where I was from. I missed home a lot. And I missed the sky. I missed the stars. Things because we used to go hang out outside in the potato fields. You would just go hang out outside. That's what you did. And one of the interesting things about northern Maine and rural places in general is that you can disappear if you're a kid. And it's scary for parents. My mom was talking to me about this. How they can't find you because. Well, it's interesting. If you're in New York City and you're a kid in New York, there's nowhere to go. So it's actually interesting how you can keep tabs on a kid in New York City. There's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
In northern Maine, there are so many places you can go in your car, and your parents don't know where you are. And that's why my mom would always get so upset when I'd be home late and didn't know who I was with, and I didn't know that. But I think the place, I spent so much time outside, even in the winter, just cross-country skiing, being in these wide open spaces, snowmobiling over potato fields. I mean, you feel like you're flying when you do that stuff. That's what inspired the play, was the place. But the play was initially written because NBC, the network, was looking for comedy writers in the late 90s, early 2000s, when Seinfeld was starting to age, Friends was starting to be at the peak of its popularity. They knew they needed a new comedy blocks. Hi. I know, Fran. They knew that they needed more comedies to fill their Thursday night must-see TV comedy block. Remember that? So they would get people who were comedy writers a scout basically saw me in something and said that he came to see a comedy show that I was a part of that I had written something for and said, we should make it easier for this guy. And so they give you space, which in New York is incredible because space is like, we're talking thousands of dollars for a weekend to rent a space. So you'd get that money together yourself and then blow it in one weekend. So they give you space and they give you tech support, so you don't have to deal with anything. They provide the lighting, they have someone run the lights and the sound and everything. And all you have to do is show up with your material and they'll provide everything else. You couldn't have a lot of props, like you had to be really minimal with what you did for props and sets, so you really couldn't have anything. But we did, my friends and I, a bunch of character actors, all of us. Character actors are the people who help the hot people get the girl or get the guy or get the dream or get the money or get the job. That's what character actors do. And we were all character actors who wanted to be in love stories. So I started writing these, we wrote songs and sketches and monologues, and they were all love stories, and I was writing these sketches about these people from this little town in northern Maine falling in love. And NBC would own the material for 90 days, and they never moved on any of my material, like they never took it to series. We had a couple of meetings, but it just never got anywhere. But a director who was well known named Gabriel Barry, who directed the first production here at Portland Stage Company, he saw one of these evenings and he said, I'd like to talk to you about maybe making a play out of these stories. I was like, well, I'm not a playwright, I don't know how to do that. He's like, well, you have a lot of scenes that are set in a northern town. They have a Twilight Zone feel to them. They're all surreal love stories. I think there's an element of sameness that could make maybe like a compilation of scenes that could go together and form a play. So we started to work on it that way. So that's how the play came to be. And I wrote most of those scenes when I was young, 20s into my 30s. Next part of the question?
Well, it wasn't part of the question, a different question. Do you consider this a romantic comedy?
Oh, yeah. Okay, you want me to?
Yeah.
All right. Wait, so I think I got most of that.
Yeah, I think so.
The stuff about how the play.
Yeah. I'll come back to it if not.
Okay.
Yeah. But you're talking about the romantic comedy writing.
I like romantic comedies. I do not like sentimental comedies, and most of the movies that you see are sentimental comedies. F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote that the sentimental person thinks that everything is going to last and be okay. The romantic person has a desperate confidence that everything is going to go to hell. And we don't actually know romance. A true romance, it means that it feels like things are going to fall apart. And we use the word romance wrong all the time. Shakespeare's romances are The Winter's Tale, Measure for Measure. No, that's a tragedy. I can't remember the other ones, but there are a few that Tempest would be considered a romance, right? People come together, but it's like, oh, I'm not sure. You know, it's that. And that's what I think a real romantic comedy is. And there's a writer for the New York Times named Wesley Morris who wrote, he's my favorite cultural commentator right now. He's incredible. Except for this guy. Yeah. Yes. He's my second favorite cultural commentator. Okay, maybe you're my second favorite.
I'll take that, believe me.
But anyway, he wrote this great article about what's happened to the romantic comedy because they're not in cinema, they're not in the cineplexes anymore. And that'll change. But he said, it's unfortunate because the romantic comedy is the only place in which ordinary working people are the stars. And I was like, oh, that's almost Maine. That's what I love about it. And I'm interested in, once you become powerful and smart, you think that people who are less powerful and less smart than you don't experience life the way you do. That's what we tend to do. We think, oh, they just don't understand. We don't mean to do it, but we seem to do it. I thought that about my people I grew up with. I thought, oh, they're kind of dumb. I'm much smarter than all of those people. I thought that. I thought that when I went to college. And I think that's actually healthy to think when you're in college, because then you have to learn that you're wrong. But I think it's okay to have that kind of confidence and be like, I'm leaving. And then realize, like, oh, that guy knows how to fix everything, and I know how to fix nothing. He is actually really smart. You know what I mean? Like, wow, check that guy out. Wesley Morris, romantic comedy, yeah. And I realized, I chose to write about these, all the people in Almost Maine are like, they work in chip mills, and they work in paper mills, and they work in heating and cooling, and they do things that are really important to our daily lives. And I just wrote about them because those were the people that I grew up with, and they were kind of cool to me. I can't do any of those things, I picked potatoes, and I was bad at it. You know what I mean? Like, I worked really hard, but I got married in October. My husband grew up on a potato farm in Presque. We're from the same town. It's crazy, but we grew up together. We didn't know what was going on. It's a long story. And we re-met later and figured out what was going on, so it's all good now. It's a long time ago. But anyway, he grew up on a potato farm, and his mom could pick 100 barrels a day. And my top was 60. And I usually picked 40, and I thought that was pretty good. And his mom picked 100 barrels a day. I'm like, I am so much weaker than Lois Lloyd. You know what I mean? And it's just so funny. But anyway, I don't know why I told you that. But yeah, that's what I'm learning after the fact. I didn't know what I was interested in when I started writing. I didn't know that I was interested in the fact that contemporary American art and culture does not multidimensionally portray rural America at all. If you're watching a show about rural America, it's about opiate abuse like Ozark, which is a very good show, but it's about opiate abuse, it's about drugs, it's about poverty and joylessness. The New York Times, every time they run an article about rural America, the picture that accompanies the article is always in gray sepia tones, and it's their trees have no leaves on them. And I'm like, summertime does happen in northern Maine, and it's actually really beautiful. Summertime happens in Ohio, and it's really beautiful. You know, and I'm just kind of like, what is it with this presumption of, like, that just because your life is kind of tragic and crappy, that you have no joy? And that's what I think we're doing so beautifully with Almost Maine. We have a lot of people who are dealing with hard things, but they're not joyless. It's still fun and funny, because when you're having a lousy time, I just talked to my friend who just got this news about her cancer, and she was like hilarious on the phone. I'm like, what? I guess that's to save herself, you know what I mean? But like, I'm interested in why we think that tragedy means there's no joy. And why we think that, like, just because you don't have the words for something doesn't mean you're having the same feelings, you know? I know that words are really important. If you don't have the words we can talk a lot about what not having words means, and I think words are very important, but just because you don't have the same words as someone else to describe something doesn't mean you're not experiencing the emotion or the feeling. And also, you know, spectacularness isn't limited to people who went to college or limited to people who are really smart. Or spectacular things happen to very ordinary people. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people call this play quirky. I'm like, no, the people, and when they say the people are quirky, this is full of all these quirky people. I'm like, no, the people are normal. It's weird stuff that's happening to them. And that's what Sally Wood, our director, has helped tremendously. These people hopefully feel sort of on the I got a big note last night to not play the quirk. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay. Play the people as normal people. Don't lean into that too much.
Quick sideline.
Yeah.
What is it like to be directed in a play that you wrote?
Sally, first of all, I trust Sally. I trust the other actors. I trust the design. Wait till you see the design. I mean, the design is beautiful, and it's great to have a design from Maine set in Maine made by Mainers. Because they understand the sky and the stars, and the Northern Lights are so fantastic and so simple. I mean, it's so funny how simple they are. I know the play, but I don't know the words. I don't know the motivations. I don't know what's in there. And Sally's there to help me pull it out. In fact, there's an element in the play that is so gorgeous, and I was very against it for a while. I didn't understand it. I didn't understand why the space is very limited that we're working on as a result of the design choice, and I was very upset about it with Sally for a while. And then I understood it over the past couple nights. I just understood what it was, partly because she helped us understand how to use the new space as it is now configured. We just couldn't figure it out ourselves as actors. We couldn't figure out where to be in space with this design element. And we didn't know what we were frustrated about, and she helped us realize, you're just frustrated because I haven't been able to help you learn where to be with this design element. And we all figured that out together. We're like, that's why we're upset, because we don't know where to be, and now we know where to be. Yeah. The point is that it's awesome to just be an actor, because you have to be dumb to be an actor, and I don't mean dumb as in not know things. I mean you have to drop knowledge, because you have to be ready to absorb. Don't do it like this, try it like this. Okay, great, I'll try it. You have to keep just staying open and trying all the different things that the director wants. And that's what you do when you're an actor. You don't think, and then she says, John, playwright hat. I'm like, okay, got it. What are we gonna do? And she'll ask me to cut something or to think of adding something.
Okay. Another process.
It's really easy because it's a totally different thing. Being an actor, being a playwright, two completely different things. And you go into, I call it dumb mode, I really do. You have to drop thinking about anything else and just only know what's right here.
Okay, so this is a process question. Are you also thinking about Caroline and change at all?
I had to learn so much of the material when I auditioned that I already know the biggest stuff I have to do, so that's kind of comforting. And also, I probably didn't do what I'm going to do in the show, so I don't want to lock into anything. I want to go into rehearsal open and learn anew what it is, because I made my decisions, but that doesn't mean that over the next few weeks I'll know. But I am just kind of I'll start reading it and thinking about it. I mean, it's such a great thing to have a job coming up, because that's the big terror, is being unemployed, and I don't have to worry about that. You know what I mean? We were actually talking about that last night, the actors. They're like, oh, in 3 weeks we don't have a job. And I was like, I do. No, I'm just kidding. But it's already, isn't it funny that we haven't even opened it, and it just starts to creep in. You know, it's like, and we were talking about how it usually happens when you finally feel like you actually know most of your lines. Because you don't have to work, you have work to do, but it does creep, it's just creeping in a little bit.
You auditioned for the play, and the playwright Tony Kushner was at the audition. How intimidating was that?
Oh, well, they asked me to audition like in September or early October, and my agent said, you need to finish your book. The people who are casting it know who you are. I think we're going to just kind of let this go and tell them that you're just not available. And I was like, oh, God, all right. But I really had to finish the book, and I also didn't have time to prepare, because it was a lot of material. And it's also very complicated material, because the whole thing is sung, but it doesn't feel like it's hard to explain. It doesn't feel like it's sung, but it's hard because it's sung. So it was a lot to learn. And then they came back about a month later, and they said, so fortunately they didn't find anybody. That's basically what happened. If they had found somebody, I would have been out of luck. Mm-hmm. But they didn't find anybody, and they called and they said, we'd like to have John do a work session with the director and the music director, which means you're going to go in for an afternoon. It took about an hour, I would say, of working with the musical director and the director to get ready to present to them and Janine Tesori, who wrote the music. She wrote Fun Home and Shrek. And Tony Kushner, to be in a room full of a lot more people. And when you go into those work sessions, that's when they know that you're someone that can change, that you can work with. They will tell you often things that don't make any sense, just to see how you roll with the direction. Not that they don't try to throw you, but they want to see if you're going to be like, well, that doesn't make any sense. If you say that, you're probably not going to get too far, you know? I didn't know how much I would care about meeting Tony Kushner. He wrote Angels in America. I mean, that's his opus. Yeah. I guess in Lincoln also, but I just didn't know that I would care that much. And when he stood up and he just stood up and shook my hand, and he's kind. And it was just so surprising that he was so kind. Because he's also such a brilliant dude, you know what I mean? But he was so kind, and I did my audition, and he was crying, because I'm playing his dad I play the dad of an 8-year-old version of Tony Kushner, and the story is of Tony Kushner's relationship with his family's maid in Louisiana. 1963, black maid, 8-year-old boy, parents, Jewish family, and then the black woman's family, and it's mostly the story of the woman, the maid. And what makes it interesting is that the maid is a complicated character. The maid is not she's mean. And you don't usually see people who are oppressed often don't play mean in a lead role, because we white people tend to not humanize them by allowing them to be all of the things that human beings can be. I think that's one of the groundbreaking things about this play, is that gave this woman is like mean. I mean, but for a reason. Like, when you learn about her, you learn why. You know,
right. It's really 1963 Louisiana.
1963 Louisiana. Yeah. But it's really interesting, because the pain in her is pretty amazing, and meeting him was just cool. And then, you know, he was emotional when I did my scene, and I didn't know what to do. You know, and then I got to do it again, so I felt like, oh my gosh, he likes me, so I did it better. You know what I mean?
And you got the role.
Yeah.
You've had great success. About every other year or so, you're ending up in a big Broadway show. Something Rotten, The Band's Visit,
Yep.
and now this.
I've been very lucky, because they've all run. That doesn't usually happen, you know.
Well, that's right. They all have
they
run.
usually close after a month or two.
You've had at least a year-long run.
I think it's
one
me.
Of them. Yeah, it's great. It may well be. Okay, so you've acted on Broadway. Mm-hmm. You've written one of the most popular plays that's been in this country, and now you've written a novel. Which is the hardest?
Well, I'm not a novelist, so the novel is hard, because also the novel isn't good. Parts of it aren't good. I mean, it's not bad, but there are parts that I wish I could change, but because I had a deadline, I had to let it go. And that's been very difficult for me because I have nightmares about it, actually. Like, I get so upset because there are things I still know that I couldn't solve. I couldn't fix it. But definitely, I mean, I've never written a novel before, so, you know, that is lonely. I don't know why anyone would choose to write a novel. People are asking me like, would you like to write another one? I'm like, no, I do not want to write another one. Thank you very much. You know? But I'm really glad I got to, because I got to flesh out the people and I got to defend the people a little bit, which is really nice, because I feel like living in New York City, people don't like people from rural America right now because they define them by a couple of things that I think we all know. And it's interesting to listen. I don't think people understand what poverty does to people. And right now in the arts, we are very interested in queerness and race, and I think those are very important issues to be dealing with. But I really can't figure out why we're not dealing with poverty and those issues inside poverty. Because being a queer person who is well-to-do is very different from being a queer person who is very poor. And I don't understand why we're not paying attention to the issue of poverty. And it's something that I didn't, you know, I asked my dad, I was like, I remember the last time I was in Presque Isle, I was like, God, it's so poor up there. Was it always that poor? And my dad was like, John, what are you talking about? I was like, and then I was a kid, I didn't pay attention. You know, I didn't see it, but, and maybe it's worse, I don't know, maybe my friends who are here can talk about it, but I don't know if it's worse, but I do know the population has decreased significantly. Mm-hmm. I do know that the Air Force Base is gone. That was in the 90s. I do know that acreage is down in growing potatoes. I do know that drug addiction is up. Mm-hmm. But I also know that they have a very high college graduation rate, community college, and like they're really working hard to keep people now. That's a big thing. I don't know. I don't live there. That's the hard part. I'm not from there anymore, so I feel like a bit of a poser writing about it, but I also feel like it feels good to be able to write about people. I got to research all the jobs that I wanted to research, which was really fun. One of my best friends gave me a tour of the whole county when I was up there. We just drove around everywhere. She knows the county really, really well, better than I do. And I just got to drive. I listened to her and my husband, who knows the county really well. They just talked, and I just sat in the back seat and listened to them talk as we passed all these mills that they knew what they did. I didn't even know what they did because I didn't pay attention, you know. And
made butter wrappers. Yes,
one of the characters in the novel, he had a job at the butter wrapper factory that closed. I mean, the butter wrapper mill that closed, and instead gets a job at a Walmart because it's more reliable, and that's heartbreaking to me. Do you know what I mean? That someone chooses to take a job there because the mill won't furlough, like a Walmart doesn't furlough. Do you know what I mean? And so we've got to be able to make things. Do you know what I mean?
You're in your writing, you're tapping into these themes that are so prevalent in our.
But I didn't do it on purpose. Like, it's not like I decided to do that. It's not like I'm some smart guy who decided to do this. I just was writing about what was interesting to me, and now I've learned that now we're learning that there's some people who we haven't really paid a whole lot of attention to. And
is Almost Maine a political play?
No, not at all.
Not at all. You're not.
Nope. I don't think so. It's just quotidian, you know. Daily life interrupted by something special.
Yep. Okay, so back to Caroline and Change. Tony Kushner is in the audition. You get this role. You're going to New York in a few weeks, and you're going to come back and finish up a couple scenes, a couple shows here.
Yep.
How does that work?
We asked if they would. The rehearsal schedule is Monday through Saturday with Sunday off. So we asked if we could have the whole week off. That's what we just asked for, and they said no.
You don't have that much clout. Huh?
Well, I'm also playing a supporting role, and they don't need to worry about me. They have other fish to fry. They have other people to worry about, so I know that they're going to call me when they need me. You know what I mean? And I'm present in a lot of the play, so I'm just going to need to be there. But then they almost gave me Friday, Saturday off, and then they gave me Saturday for sure. So I'm going to get to do Saturdays and Sunday shows, which I think it'll be fun to finish. And Dustin Tucker's going to fill in for me, who is, you know, like how good, that makes me feel so good because he is so good that I'm not even worried. Like that makes me feel really good. He's also beloved, you know, for a good reason. He's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, those shows are going to be fun. There are many people who are going to want to see both you and Dustin.
I'm not looking forward to that, to be honest with you. Because he's so funny, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It'll be different. It'll just be different.
Yes, it'll be fun.
That's what you tell yourself. It's just different.
Okay, so how I want to go back to the novel. A couple questions that I didn't get to. You started with almost 1,000 pages and you cut it down. How did you write 1,000 pages?
I wrote 1,000 pages. Well, I wrote all the stories that I decided to do it, that I tell all the stories in Almost Maine are told. And I got to make all the characters different ages. So I don't know if you know the play, but there's a prologue with two people who are stargazing, and they're 15-year-olds, which I'm really psyched about. And that's the person that's the main character of the whole novel, is Jeanette, the woman who looks at the stars at the beginning of the play. And you follow her through the play. I had 1,000 pages at one point, which is true, like 900 pages or something. It was ridiculous. And I turned in that to the editors, and they said, "Good job." But then they just got to work helping me cut. And most of what I did is I went into depth I went into huge, lengthy descriptions. I'm talking Proust-like descriptions of the place. And I hate Proust, so I don't know what I was thinking. Sorry, Proust, but it's not my thing. But like long descriptions of the place. And I realized that that's not what my play is, because that makes it stagnant, and they helped me see that. And I also went into long descriptions of what all the people do for a living, because I did all the research, so I wanted to show everybody that I did all this research. And so, like I did this whole long thing about the butter wrapper factory, and now butter wrapper mill, and now it's just like he used to work in the butter wrapper. He used to work on Machine 7, which made butter wrappers at the paper mill. That's all it is. And that was like 20 pages. You know what I mean? And once I learned how to do that, then I learned, because people don't care about how they make butter wrappers. I did, because it was really interesting. But that was what they helped me do. And also then I added 3 new stories. I'm really excited because the middle story of Almost Maine is a brand new story. It is a story I wanted to put in the play but could never get it. But I'm really excited because maybe it's just because it's new, but it's my favorite story in the book. It's chapter 6. I cut 2 other stories. I had a story about it. I wanted to write about old love, like love between old people, because most plays that you see about old people are about them dying or not having sex, and that's not what living is. Do you know what I mean? No, and you've asked me. She said, if you ever want to write a romantic comedy for old people, that would be great. I can't, because I don't know that yet. I tend to write, and then by the time I finish the play, I'm 7 years older than what I wrote about. Does that make sense? That seems to be what happens. What was I going to say? I was going to finish something important, and I don't remember. I don't know. No, wait. I wanted to. What was it?
Chapter 6.
Oh yeah. So and then I had 2 other chapters. One was about an old couple, and one was about 2 girls. And I ended up having to remove both of those scenes because because they were new, they weren't the same timbre as the rest of the book. And my editor was brilliant and helped me figure this out. She said, those were written when I was young. These 2 new chapters were written when I was older, and they don't match. Does that make sense? 50-year-old me writing against the 30-something-year-old me, it didn't match. And that was really interesting to learn. Mm-hmm. They were too sophisticated or something, I think. And so we had to remove them. The good news is that one of them is going to become a play that Sally and I have already started working on. So I'm going to work on that. That's going to be my next play, I think. But the editors were incredible because they're relentless and not kind, but clear about, well, if you want this to be 600 pages, I don't know who's going to read that. You know what I mean? Like, just to kind of let you know. And so we got it all the way down to 330. So that's where...
Yeah, that's very reasonable.
That's more reasonable.
It's a good process.
Yeah.
You had some help. You have some writer friends around here.
Monica Wood is, like, awesome. And I had some really dark days working on the book because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I didn't understand the process. I was scared of the deadlines. I didn't know that the deadlines are usually fake deadlines, just to light that fire and get it in. And then you'd get it in, and then they'd say, great, you have 2 more weeks to keep working on it. I'd be like, what do you mean I have 2 more weeks? I called Monica quite a couple times just to say, hey, because she calls me about help with her plays. Like, she is facing, like, it's so stupid. Because she writes about rural people, the agents in New York will not help her with her plays. It's a fact. It's so weird. And I've said to her, there's nothing you can do about it. It is just the mindset right now. Right now it's about queerness and race, and it's in urban areas. And that's, I don't know what to tell you, but that's what people are interested in. Don't worry about it. Don't even worry about getting an agent. Just, I've been giving her play, The Papermaker. That's the one that I don't have Half-Light. I also know that Papermaker, I think, is the one that I feel like I can talk really confidently about to people. But I just give it to people, and that's really all you can do. And she just has to wait until, it's getting done, but she kind of has to wait until the people think that's important again, and that's whatever, it's so annoying, but that's the way it goes. You know, we're not writing on trend. And when you're not writing on trend, you get stuck with what I get stuck with, which is kind of being made fun of a little bit. When Almost Maine first came out, it was a little bit made fun of, and then slowly, it's really fun to see those people who made fun of it too, and if I may say, I enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah, good for you.
But I called Monica a couple times. I also read, When We Were the Kennedys was one of the books I referred to when I needed help, just because the voice was right, you know what I mean? I got advice to have books to read when I was stuck. Just go read a book. I also got advice to watch. I watched the television show Veep while I was working on Almost Maine, which is the polar opposite of Almost Maine, because it is crass and hilarious and nasty. I was told it's a great palate cleanser for when you're working. So I would watch like a 22-minute of Veep and laugh at Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and then go back to my sweet little Almost Maine world. You know what I mean? But Monica she just helped me understand they would tell me things like, yeah, we're going to give you first pages. I'm like, first pages? I don't even know what that is. Like, they used all these words that I don't know what they are, so I would call her and ask her, because I would ask them and they would explain it, but I still didn't get it. You know, people who know things can't explain what they know. And she would explain things to me, and she also just, you know, when I told her I had 750 pages, she went, oh. And then when I told her my time frame, she went, oh. You know, so, but she's just an amazing person, and so smart and so kind, and it's just been fun. We've been able to help each other in the worlds that we
I think it's great.
live in. And someone, you know, and I read one of the books that I was reading it was really interesting reading Olive Kittredge. I read that because I was reading it anyway, and I just kept reading it because it was similar in that it's a collection of short stories that feels like a novel, you know? I read Charlotte's Web, because I want my book to be easy to read, because that's really important to me, that it's easy to read. Because I always remember, I like books that feel like you're drinking. I don't know how to explain it. It just goes in so fast you don't even know what's happening. So I was interested in that. I read Carson McCullers' The Heart is a Lonely Hunter. I don't understand how someone 23 years old can understand what she understood, and that book is so good. And I read, I went back to books that I liked, just to help me think about, and Monica helped me think about that. She said, don't be afraid to go read. You know, you have to you have to have stuff go in so that you can create. Kathy Pelletier was another writer that Funeral Makers is one of my favorites, just because of the humor. I mean, it's just killer humor, you know. And also that's Allagash, which is farther, you know, much farther than where I'm from, but.
A lot of Maine writers on that list.
Yeah, well, because that's the place that I know, you know. Kathy Pelletier describes spring better than anybody I've ever. Spring in northern Maine, you know, that muddy, it's the grossest. It's so gross. Like, spring is gross. Like, it's just, and then all of a sudden it's not anymore. You know, I don't understand.
We're going to go to audience questions in one
For real?
second, but I haven't asked you about your TV career. This is the last question, then we'll go over. Fran Houston said she saw you on the Blacklist recently.
Yep.
Are you still doing a lot of TV?
Well, I go to auditions when they you know, it's neat because like I don't have to now. Like I don't. I have an agent. An agent is someone who does the contracts when you get the jobs. Like the actors who work at Portland Stage, their agent helps make sure the contracts look good, and they get you the auditions. I also have a manager who's kind of like a parent. No, for real. Like they have fewer clients, and they help you think about what you want to spend your time doing. And I didn't want to. When I was approached to write the novel, the reason that this is interesting. The reason that the novel got done. Macmillan is the publisher, which is a massive publishing house, and I have friends who are writers who don't have publishing deals. Do you know what I mean? And I had a hard time with that for a while. I was like, what? like, this isn't fair. And then, you have to remember that that's not a good way to think, because things aren't fair. You really have to get over that fast, and you just show up and do your thing, and eventually, hopefully, But they have an innovative content division. I guess this is a big thing at publishing houses now, where they if you go to YouTube, they'll look for stories, and they'll troll YouTube for stories. They'll troll journalists for stories. They'll troll Instagram for stories. I'm not sure, I heard this, I don't know if it's true, but I think somebody's daughter was doing Almost Maine and was helping her with it or something, like lines or something, and said, this would be a great book. And that's what happened. So something I made years ago coming back to, and so that's how that got to happen. And I said no at first, because I was like, I don't know how to do that. I don't know what I would do. And my manager said, you need to just stop for a second. I'll let you think about it for the weekend. I thought about it for the weekend. On Monday, I said, I still don't want to do it. And she said, I want you to think about it, because intellectual property is a very valuable thing. And this could be a way for you to help people understand what you were going for with your play, because I have a chip on my shoulder about it. I feel like it's very misunderstood. That's just my own issue. But she said, you can control what that book is going to be, and you can let people know more about that place, and I think you really want to do that. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know if I want to do the work it's going to take. And she was like, well, then that's being lazy, and if you want to be lazy, go ahead. But you have something really special that you just got handed, and I think you should think about it. And I thought about it and decided to do it. And the problem was, as soon as I got the offer to write the book, I got a Broadway show. And I thought I'd be able to write like 6 hours a day while I was doing a Broadway show. Well, I wrote about 1.5 to 2 hours a day when I was doing the show. And then I got another one right afterwards, which has never happened, And so we had to keep telling the publisher, it's going to be a while. And they were terrific. Oh gosh.
That was a TV question, but that's all right.
That was not really a good answer. But anyway,
that's okay.
The manager helps you think about, I had a lot of auditions over the summer and over the fall for television shows, and she said, I don't think this is more important than you finishing your book, and I don't think this is more important. When I got Caroline or Change, we had a couple of auditions come up, and she said, I don't think this is more important than Caroline or Change. So I get to think about that, because I'm in a place where I'm making them enough money that I don't have to worry about them letting me go. And that's what's so hard when you're young, when you don't make much money for your agent. You always worry about them saying, you don't make us enough money, see ya. And that's what happens, And now I'm finally in a place where I don't have to think about that, because I have properties that generate enough, a little bit of income for them, that I don't have to worry about that. And, I don't know how you help other people get there, because it's an awful place to be,
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Okay, so.
When you get to be my age, especially when you're a woman, that is when you get cut by your agents, because you are no longer valuable to them. And it's just heartbreaking to watch happen, because that's when you really have stuff to offer. We all know that.
Yeah, you're just hitting your stride creatively at age 50, I think.
Yeah, but I'm a man. It's easier.
Yeah, right, I understood, yeah. Okay, Molly has a microphone, and she is going to walk around
Thank you so much.
and hand it to
This is super
people
cool.
with
This is
questions.
really fun.
Try to wait till you get the mic, if you can, so everybody can hear you.
I see one way over there.
So we'll start. I'm sure we're going to have plenty of questions, and we'll get to many, and afterward, John is happy to talk, I'm told.
Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm Macy, and I'm someone from Maine who's going to college in New York right now and about to graduate and thinking of moving to New York. And I was just wondering if you had any advice for starting out making work in New York, or anything you wish you knew when you were starting
Are you
out.
a theater person?
Yes, I am. Yeah.
Okay, this is what I would do. I would come back somewhere where you can make money, waiting tables or something, and save as much money as you can. If you can go to New York with, I don't know what a number would be now, but with $5,000 or $10,000, you can learn how to ride the subway for a month, and you can learn your way around the city. You can learn where casting directors' offices are. You can learn about all the agencies. You can learn, if you want to go that route, you can learn. You can go to plays and see all of the theaters in town. You can learn about it, because it is a foreign land. I'm sure you know that. And luckily, you've been in college there. Where are you in college?
Bard, so outside of the city, but nearby.
Oh, so you're not really a city person?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No.
So yeah, that's what I wish. And don't use your credit cards. Those are the two things I would say. I know that sounds really boring, but you have to learn the city. It took me a long time to learn how to get lost and not cry about it. Do you know what I mean? I would freak out, and you have to learn how to get lost. If you have some money in the bank, you can go and not feel that horrible pressure of having to get a job. You can put it off for 6 to 8 weeks, and then you can get a job, and then you have to deal with working, but at least you've had a couple of months to learn where you are, learn the city, learn what you want to do. Like, go see, I can't tell you that my dream is to do Broadway shows. I don't dislike them, but it's not my favorite theater. You know what I mean? So I do it because it pays me well, and then what do you really want to do? You know, that's a hard question to answer all the time. What do you really want to do? And I learned that I'm more interested in telling stories I am than being in the theater. That's what I'm more interested in, I think, than fitting into other people's stories all the time. Because you know why? As this guy plays Jewish people who are from New York all the time. And this guy is not a Jewish person, and he is not from New York. I never get to play the people that I am, because I don't look like it to people. And that's what we're saddled with. You're saddled with the package that you get. I never would play. I got to play what I am for the first time when I did a play called Picnic off-Broadway a couple of years ago. It was, William Inge wrote the play. It's a mid-20th century play. It's one of the most beautiful plays ever written. It's just very difficult to rehearse because it's a huge play. I got to play Howard, and I got to say this line in the play. This is the middle of the country, like Kansas. And one of the lines Howard gets to say is, well, this is a good business town. A young guy could go far here. And that's not true anymore. You know what I mean? I don't think people would say that about the middle of the country. So I got to play a dude who works in a, I think like, I don't even know what he does, but I can't remember, but you know, like a general store, like that, and I got to play kind of what I am. And it was so fun to not have to do research or figure out how to be more like, I got to be what I was, you know, that was kind of fun. I'm sorry, that was a long answer.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
hope that's helpful. Not a very glamorous answer, but.
How old?
And you know what? Every day before you go to sleep, I would just say, what do I want to do? Just before you go to sleep, just ask yourself that question. What do I really want to do? And you might not have an answer, but if you ask the question, you'll think about it as you sleep. Because I still wonder, what do I really want to do? You know?
How old were you when you went to New York?
27. I waited because I was scared. I was scared of a lot of things when I was young, which is, I wish I hadn't been, but that's the way it was.
All right, show of hand for more questions.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't
Oh,
realize
okay.
you were the microphone.
Oh, no, I'm holding the microphone.
I will ask one.
Oh, okay, one back here and then we'll come up front.
This is very quick, but when's the novel coming out?
What? Sorry. I just saw a kid who's old. Yeah, I just didn't know that was you.
Okay.
Like, you're old now. It's so weird.
So question was from back here. Do you have a release date for your novel?
March 31st. Yup.
What is the cover?
I thought I would get to like have input. The cover is a riff on the art from the New York production. It's fine. No, it's good. I mean, I shouldn't have said that like that.
No, I'm glad you did.
No, but it's recorded.
That's okay.
No, it's great. It's just, I thought, like, and that's not, I'm not saying that that's not good. I just thought that, like, oh, my friends who are artists, could design the cover. That's not how that works. You know what I mean? Like,
Right. That's how I interpreted that.
yeah. I mean,
You're
that's.
fine.
What was the transition like from the play to the novel? Did you take the play and like wrap the novel around it, or?
Wow, what a good question. I had to reimagine a lot of the scenes so they're not exactly what happens in the play. That I learned, that something you can do on stage I will say that I don't want to give anything away. Some of the magical things that happen in the play are magical because they happen in front of your eyes. And you hear it. And when you start to describe them, you push them down and they squish into stupid. You know what I mean? So it's hard to create the feeling of buoyancy. I don't know if that's the right word, but it feels like buoyancy in the play to translate that. It took me a long time, but I got it. It was just a matter of keeping the sentences short and keeping the language simple. As soon as I started to describe too much, it just got like, I can't explain it. It felt like you were pushing all the air out of it. So trying to figure out a way to like give it spring. And also, when you write a play, you don't have to worry about describing where people are in space or where they're going. And boy, when you write a book, you realize like, your editor's like, here was going to the bathroom and now you have him sitting on the bench in the living room. Like, what happened? And like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, you don't even realize that in my mind he had gotten up. You have to describe that he left the bathroom and went back into the living room. You know, like, it was just so funny that was really hard. And I think I failed at that a lot. Like, there's a lot of, I don't know what you call that when it's continuity issues, probably. So.
The value of stage directions, right?
Of just actors doing it, and you don't have to explain it.
All right. Can you hear this microphone in?
You wrote a wonderful play called Last Gas.
Yep.
Would you say something about that? Because it was premiered here as well.
That was my first true full-length play. I think it's the best play I'll ever write. What do I want to say about it? I don't know. I like that. I like it. It's getting done a little bit, but it's really saddled with being rural. You know what I mean? Like, it's super rural. And again, we're not very interested in queerness in the rural setting, and I think that we should be. Because those kids need it. You know, people need it.
Probably why I asked the question, Bob, is that I read this afternoon a 2010 interview you did with John about Last Gas.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's been so good to me. I learned how to interview because of him. You know, like, I learned how to answer questions at interviews.
Did I read that there's a stage reading of Last Gas coming up?
Ron's going to direct it.
Are you negotiating with me right now?
Yeah.
Oh, for real?
So so I'll give you some details. There will be a stage reading of Last Gas coming right up. Thank you for asking.
I'm not going to be able to be there because I have to do that Acorn Playwrights, Maine Playwrights Festival. I just found out. So I didn't know. That's okay. We've had to change a lot of things around because of the scheduling issues, but I just figured that out. I wanted you to know. Now I tell you publicly.
They'll send you a text.
Yeah.
Okay, other questions? Certainly there have to be more. There's one back here in the middle.
Right here. Please pass it.
What a great band.
Hi, have you ever thought about writing for film and television, or do you?
Not really my medium. I don't understand it very well. I wish I could. I would love to. I would need a lot of help, though, because it's super technical, and I'm not a visual artist. I talk about this with Anita a lot. I don't see. I hear. So a good movie or a television show, I was told, is told with pictures. You can turn off the sound. You should be able to understand what's going on. And I am not a visual person. Not that I had a very hard time even understanding one of the elements that we added to tech. I could not wrap my head around it. I didn't understand it. And then now I do. And there has been interest in Almost Maine. We're holding off because I don't want to give it up yet. And now that we have the novel, we want the novel to come out first before we move into, like, perhaps a limited series is what the discussions have been.
Wow.
Which is what we wanted to do in 2007, but people were like, there's no such thing as limited series.
Yeah.
Because it was 2007. Isn't that funny? That's what we tried to do. We tried to do that, and it just couldn't, there was no model for that, and now that's the model. So, but if we do it, I don't want to sell it. I don't want to give it up to people, because it's important to me that I have creative control over it, because I want to make sure that it's done properly. Because let me tell you, this play has been done not properly plenty of times, and I don't blame anyone for that. It's just rural's a little different, you know, and you just have to help people understand what it is, I guess. But I love movies and TV shows, but I do not know those media as well. I've given a lot of thought to it, though, you know. It would require an enormous amount of work on my part to learn, like as much as the novel, probably. Yes.
Hi, can you tell us a little bit about your experience on Law & Order?
Yeah, it was the most fun job I think I've ever had. I was on Law & Order from 2002 to 2007 with Jerry Orbach and, oh my gosh, I just forgot his name. No. Jesse Martin. Sorry, I just lost his name. Jesse Martin. The cool thing is that those guys are both like musical theater legends, so when they found out I was doing a Broadway show, it was kind of fun. You know what I mean? Just because they thought I was cool. But I got lucky because I auditioned for this part of this guy who knew a lot about some ballistics thing, and I just played myself. I mean, That's usually what you do on TV, just a excited guy about his job and telling him about the bullets and it was when CSI was coming on. That's when the CSI was starting to overtake Law and Order or something, and so they were starting to use more science in their show, and they said, why don't we bring that guy back? And they stretched believability a little bit because I was an expert on everything, like, which makes it television. I think I started out as a serologist, which is that blood? Blood. Yes. So I started out as a serologist, and I had my friends who were scientists, so I asked them all the questions because I didn't understand jack about what I was reading, you know. But then it was really fun. You know what was most fun about it is I would usually get there. They usually do my stuff first in the morning. It was usually in a lab. Sometimes I was in the lab and the courtroom. Those made for long days because you do the lab one day, and then you come back a couple days later and do the courtroom. And the courtrooms take all day because you have to do all of the shots of the people on the stand, and then they do it from behind the people on the stand, and then they focus on the lawyer, and then they focus on the jury. So you have to do the scene over and over and over, and it takes all day. But when I was in just a lab, I would go in at 5:30 in the morning. We would do a quick rehearsal. The camera was handheld, so it would move, so that I could move all over the place. And Law and Order was such a machine. They knew they had been doing it for so long that if the first take was good, they were like, great. And they would do one more for safety, but they wouldn't. You never had a director who was like, well, I feel like maybe. No, they were just like, if you got all those words and you got it and we can understand it and it all makes sense for the story. Sometimes they'd have you do another take with a slightly different, like they changed the color of the car or something just in case. You know what I mean? They had to show a different car. But I was usually home by 10. It was so fun because that is not usually the experience on most television shows. It's usually long and tedious.
10 at night or 10 in the morning?
10 in the morning. Yeah, so like just a few hours and then home, you know. And then you can just rest for the day because you already worked. It was really fun.
There's a question.
But then, like I did a Marvelous Mrs. Maisel last year, and that was really intense because it was very well rehearsed, very well choreographed. It was amazing to watch them. It's just such a neat era right now because the people who create the shows are in charge of their shows. That's why the shows are so good because it's their vision. And Amy Sherman Palladino is the, you know, she's the creator, and it was really neat because they rehearsed us a lot, which was neat. Like, usually you don't get much rehearsal. And I was in a big group thing where we had to all do these things and then look at the door and say, get out of here, and then go back to our job and then look at them and say, get out of here, and then do it. It was not choreographed, but it was almost, you know? But it took a long time.
It's an amazing show.
Yeah,
It really
it's
is fun.
pretty brilliant.
Yep. We have a question here.
You've talked about the experiences that you realized just were not for you and what you wanted to do. You wanted to be a storyteller. Have you discovered that that's part of being engaged in the arts, or were you pretty sure as you went along that you knew what you wanted to do?
I feel like every time I'm doing something, I'm like, I don't know if this is what I want to do. And I don't know what that is. You know? I don't know. I'm very excited about doing Caroline or Change, but there's something in me that is like, I have to do that for 6 months. Oh. And I don't really feel like that, but there is, as I get older, I'm like, I think maybe the book did that, because now that I did that, I want to learn I was telling Anita, I want to apprentice her to learn about, as a theater artist, I should know more about set design. Do you know what I mean? Just to watch her do her thing. Because I would feel comfortable doing that with her. Like, I would feel like I would be quiet, I would watch. She wouldn't be able to depend on me for anything because I can't do anything. You know what I mean? But I think that's something I would like to do, just to learn more. I feel like I want to learn math now. Like, that's my new thing. I want to be like, really, like, what is that? But you know, like, I have never really been like that. And I think it's because I'm not worried about making a living so much all the time. Like, I'm not desperately consumed. And that's something we need to think about. Like, people who are consumed with making enough money to get by, it takes up all of your headspace.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's important. Like, you have to make a living. I don't know if that's actually, I don't know if that, but it's interesting to suddenly be in a place where, and it's not always like this, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just in a pocket of time when, I don't have to take that because I don't need the money. I have my health insurance. Like, it's a blessing. You know, it's like, how do you help people, like, get to pursue their passions so that they're not always spinning about money? Because that's what it seems like everybody's always spinning about is money. I don't know what the solution. I don't have an answer because I don't know, but I just know that takes up so much headspace in it.
Absolutely it does. There's no question. That's what everybody's dealing with, or many people are dealing
And just to
with.
recognize when you're in a position where you're not doing that.
Yep.
You know?
Thank you.
All right.
And to be grateful for it too. But also to know that, like, to tell young people, like, I'm 50. You know what I mean? Like, I've been doing this for a long time. I've been working hard for a long time. So when people want it all now, I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, because I have friends who were so successful in their 20s. I wasn't doing anything. I was not doing that much in my 20s. I was trying, but I was kind of lost, you know, and I didn't get anywhere till I was well into my 30s, and I don't know what that means, you know.
But you've worked hard.
Yeah, well, it's hard to explain to people, like, when I was 27, I wasn't anywhere, you know, and when kids, you know, now with social media, they can see that their friends are on television show and everywhere. You used to not know that stuff. I think it was better to not know, you know.
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
Two more questions, one here.
So, hi, John.
How are you?
So good. So I just wanted to tell you, because you said you're kind of defensive about Almost Maine. So at Lyric, we're working on Lovesick, which, so Ben May, that I know you know, is in it. And so the actors, what John writes is really, really hard to act because he does a lot of overlapping. He's making it very real. It's quirky characters without being quirky. So making it real. So Ben, the other night at rehearsal, said, he goes, this show is an actor's dream. And of course, we wanted to do Almost Maine, but Anita had picked it up and we didn't want to run against you at the same time at Lyric. But he said, this is an actor's dream because the way that the scenes are split up and that they can really work them. I can really work them as a director.
Yeah.
I'm tweaking all of the time because they're just developing the characters. They're a half a step off or an extra breath that's in there. So these shows are a precious commodity to the theater community, whether you feel like it was deeply embraced. It is by the actors. We're really having a great time with your show.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Do you get to see many of the productions of your plays?
I don't really, you know. I haven't seen that many. I've seen quite a few in high school because I have friends who have kids, and I'll go, and that's always fun because there's an innocence to high school kids that makes the play work in a really beautiful way, you know.
We wanted him to come to Lyric, but he's a little busy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come though. I'm gonna try to figure it out. Oh yeah. That's on my list.
All right, so last question over here.
John, you mentioned something about hearing or representing characters who don't have the language, and your curiosity, the way you touch your ear and the way you listen, and the curiosity about life in general, it comes out to all of us. I'm just wondering, do you find at times that in that place where the hackneyed language just gets done over and over again, that every once in a while there's something expressed through there that comes through?
I don't. What do you mean the hackneyed language? Like the language of like.
Well, when you
like
say
regular, everyday language?
you say the people you grew up with sometimes didn't have language to express what you're trying to express through your plays. I'm just wondering, as you sat in the back seat with your husband and your friend, are there times when language comes through that's not refined and not articulate, but
Oh yeah, I think
bears
I
that
think
poetry?
Even though people don't have the big, I think what I mean is they don't have the big words. Maybe I think they still find the language, as much language as you can find.
Yep.
I don't think we actually have as much access to, like, what do we call it, 10-cent words or $10 words or whatever they say, as we think we do. You know, like when we speak, there aren't very many people who have that. That's a true gift.
Do you think?
I don't know how to answer that, actually. I don't know.
Well, I mean, do you consider yourself a good listener?
I don't know. I know, actually.
No.
I think I need to get a little better because I think too much when I'm listening. When I should be listening.
You're analyzing as you're listening?
No. No. I've noticed, like, Sally Wood has called me on it a couple of times. She said, "You're not listening to me. Please listen to me." Because I'm already going to argue against what I think she's going to say. And that's what I've had to, no, that's not listening, you know? So,
Yeah.
But we have a good relationship like that. Like,
Good.
And also, it's been interesting as I've gained confidence, learning how to have confidence and not forgetting that I'm 6 feet tall. Do you know what I mean? Like, and Sally's small. Do you know what I mean? And like Sally said to me, she said, when you come at me like that, it makes me feel uncomfortable. Because I got upset about something and I came at her, like, not mean and everything. I just was like, Sally, Sally. And she was like, relax. Let's, you know, like, because she doesn't need, and it's not that I did anything wrong. It's just remembering, that you carry weight, I guess, is a hard thing to learn. You know, I think people forget that sometimes. And I'm 50, I wrote the play. I'm much bigger than she is, and sometimes I can intimidate her, and I do not think of myself as an intimidating guy.
Absolutely.
But that is good for me to learn.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And she's really good at that. Like, perhaps you could be, I did something that was not very professional at the theater the other day. I spoke freely about something, not realizing that there was a person involved with the production very close by. I just had to be reminded, remember that people can hear you, and because of you are the playwright, they feel like you are upset about something. I was like, I'm not, I was just thinking. She was like, I know you were just thinking, but make sure that those conversations are with me in a place where I can take the information and pass it on appropriately. And so just being reminded.
Self-awareness.
Not being aware that when you talk, people listen to you. That's what's weird. Do you know what I mean? Thinking, why would they listen to me? I'm just trying to do the play.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
So that's been, I've learned a lot actually this time around.
Very good. Thank you for your honesty.
Thank you so much.
This is a great conversation.
What do we do now?
I know there are a lot of folks in the balcony with questions. John's going to hang around. Feel free to come down. Questions that didn't get asked, he'll try to
What are we
answer.
allowed to do? Like, what do we?
We'll mingle right here.
We do? Okay.
Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great night.